There we go. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. My name is Maya Corbett, and I'm the founder of Denari Financial Education Academy, whose mission is to provide fun, educational, and interactive tools for parents and caregivers to help them teach their children financial literacy. My guest today is Matt Gardner, certified financial planner, who is the author of the children's book, The Four Money Bears. Mac, thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you, Maya, for having me. It's a pleasure to spend time with fellow advocates and folks that are really about promoting financial literacy and starting it at a young age. So thank you for having me join me today.
Yeah, and thank you for doing what you're doing. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, how you ended up in this field, and what prompted you to write the book?
Sure. So I have been blessed to have been in the financial services industry for 20 plus years. Started off in banking when I was in college, University of Maryland. I've got my gear on here. I like to represent that as much as possible. Then went on to be a trust administrator with a large bank in the Northeast, and then I did commercial lending, and then I went and got my regulatory licenses, 766, 24, all that fun stuff. Worked in corporate retirement plans, and then I worked in high net worth space doing financial planning. And so I've been blessed, knock on wood, to have been in this space for many years and have seen a lot of different types of clients, types of personal financial situations. And so that's sort of my background. Then I published my first book, Motivate Your Money for Adults, about 6 or 7 years ago when I started my practice in Houston. And then someone said, hey, you know what? One of my clients said, hey, Mac, I'm interested in, I like your book. It's great. Would you be open to writing something for kids? And that's how the Four Money Bears book came to be.
Wow. And so did you also write it for your children? Because you have 3 children.
Correct.
Yeah. What ages are they again?
So my children now are 13, 12, and 6. But at the time when I wrote the book, they were in elementary school. And so when my client came to me and asked to write this book, we both had elementary school kids. We both were very passionate about the importance and need for kids to learn about money. My client at the time was on the board of an organization in Houston called Jack and Jill. It's a non-for-profit organization that supports kids of color. And so I took some elements from my first book and was really looking for ways that I could distill them or make it easy for a child to understand. And I talk about it in my first book. There's only 4 things you can do with money: spend it, save it, invest it, give it away. And so that's when I created the Four Money Bears: spender bear, saver bear, investor bear, and giver bear. And that's the whole basic idea of the book. But then in the book is actually the story of me and my family going to the store, and we'll talk a little bit about that more down the line.
Right. So we actually, we got the book, and my kids are older. Yeah.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah. And I mean, they're older, but I still like, reading books to them. They sort of joke around. I have a teenager and he's like, Mom, come on. Like, we don't do this anymore, but I'm like, come on, sit. Let me read to you. And it's really cute. I love, I really enjoyed the book, and I love the graphics, the illustrations. And so do you want to tell us, have you read the book to your kids? I'm assuming you have.
Yeah. So here's the funny story about the book. So the book came about because I was trying to find a way to teach other kids about money. Then I just looked at introspectively at how I taught my kids about money. And so if my kids were around right now, I'm like, okay, what are the 4 things you can do with money, guys? We know, Papa, we know: spend, save, invest, give, we know. So the whole idea behind the book was to tell the story of how I taught my kids. And the book starts off with, and if you're a parent with young kids, you know this story, right, Maya? You put the kids in the car, you go to the store, and the first place they run to is the toy section.
The toy section, exactly.
And so I tell in the book the story of going to the store, kids run to the toy section, and then my wife and I are looking and saying, just because we can get our kids all these things that they want, do they really understand how money works? And so that's the story, is me going through and telling the story about these four bears, and the pro and con of each function. So, Spender Bear has all the neatest things, and all the nice toys and all the candy. That's the good thing. But the bad thing is that once all that stuff breaks, he doesn't have any money to do anything else. We talk about Saver Bear and the pros and cons of investing into an elementary school student's mind at a very early age. And then we also talk about the other function, which is giving.
Right. And it's really interesting what you say, like you can go, we're fortunate enough, I guess both of us, that, we can go into a store and, we can afford it, whatever toy the kid picks, right? Majority of the toys. But it's that understanding that I question whether or not my child has the understanding that, we don't, just because we can afford it doesn't mean that we should buy it. Maybe there is a better use for that money. Maybe the use for that money would be to invest it or to donate it, or just, save it until something better comes along. We don't need every single toy. And I think that's something that I struggle with, because when I was growing up, things were a little bit different. I actually grew up in a upper middle class home, and then there was a war and we lost everything, and we came to Canada as immigrants. So we started from the bottom, and we really couldn't afford anything. And that was the time when I think I realized that, I don't really need everything. Like, I can do with a lot of other things in lieu of whatever it is that I want. And so that's why sometimes I think it's really important for my children to understand that they don't need everything. Although it is, I would say, for most middle class or upper middle class families, that is a struggle, I think, because there's that fine balance of making the children understand that.
One of the best messages that I've heard, I was actually at a e-money conference a few years ago, and I was talking to a group of advisors. E-money asked me to come and do a CFPC e-course to talk to advisors about the book, about financial literacy and starting it early. And one of the advisors, her name escapes me now, but she says she doesn't tell her children that they can't afford something. She says, we choose not to spend our money that way.
Right.
And I love that, because it's such an empowering message and an empowering statement. Because too many times you want to tell your kids, oh no, we can't afford it, we can't afford it. When in fact, we can afford it.
Right.
But what we want our young people, and just people in general, to understand is the message is we have a choice. We have a choice of where we place our money and what we do with the funds that we have at our disposal. I do something called a $100 bill challenge. When I speak to elementary school students, I'll bring a $100 bill with me and I'll hold it up. And after all the oohs and the ahs and the, ooh, that's pretty cool. And I say, no, okay, you're not getting this money. Let's just say, let's make that really clear right now. You're not getting this $100 bill. But I asked them, if I gave you this $100 bill, what would you do with it? And what do you think 9 out of 10 children would respond?
So I have a question. Do you ask that question before you teach them your lesson or after you teach them your lesson?
So I'm a huge fan of public speaking. And there are 3 E's of public speaking is, you want to engage the audience, right? You want to educate the audience, hopefully, and you want to entertain them. You want to give them something to maybe laugh and remember the time that you're spending with them. So I was racking my brain as to what I could do to engage this, room full of elementary school kids. And it's become something that I do now to prove a point. I could almost write a paper on it, on how children are conditioned, because I do that at the beginning of my presentation. I'll hold it up and I'll ask, what would you do with it? And 9 out of 10 times they would buy something. They would spend the money. And so what that has shown me over time, and I've done this for years, is that children are almost conditioned to spend. CNBC asked me to contribute to an article, and they said, what's the first behavior a child picks up from their parents or their family when they're young? And the first habit is the spending habit. Right. They watch and observe how mom and dad interact with money, Do they look for deals in stores, or do they just kind of do? So that right there, that $100 bill challenge allows me to let children know, okay, yes, you're right, you could spend this. And of course, there'll be another child in the back that'll raise their hand, like, I put in my piggy bank. And I say, okay,
Yeah.
you're lying.
There's always that one child.
Yeah. You probably won't, but thanks for being different.
Yeah.
You know, and then there'll be another child that says, I'll give it to someone, or you know, but very few children would say, I would invest it. And then that's when I would share with them, look, there's only 4 things you can do with money: spend it, save it, invest it, and give it away. And so then I talk to them about the 4 money bears, and this is really what allows a child or a parent with a young child to really have a fun and entertaining way to start the conversation about money.
Right. And I think it's so important, as you said, like the kids are conditioned to spend money because they see us spend it all the time. And I think unless we talk to them and introduce them to investing or giving money to charity or whatever, that's not even in their realm. And I mean, we live in a consumer-oriented society, and I mean, Canada is very similar to US. We spend a lot. We are conditioned that way, and I'm guilty of that as well. I try to put the brakes on, and but now we're getting close to holidays, and the packages keep coming, and there's that guilt, of course. But I think it's very important to speak. It's funny, actually, I'm just talking about packages, and there's a van pulling up in front of my house delivering a package.
Amazon.
This is not good. Yeah. But, the truth is that I've done the same thing as the lady that you met at that conference for years. I don't know where I've heard that, but for years I've been telling my kids the same thing. When they want something, and it's not that we can't afford it, it's just that I choose not to spend my money on that. And I've been in situations where, we've been in an amusement park, and I remember my son asking that I purchase this. It's one of those like fun cups that has slushy in it. And, it says, we have a theme park here in close to Toronto. It's called Wonderland. So it says Wonderland on it. And, the refills are free for that day while we buy the cup. And then he was trying to get me to buy this. And I was like, well, I choose not to buy that. And then I proceeded to give him all these explanations. Like, number one, he only drinks water. I mean, I was like, why would you? He doesn't even like slushies. He doesn't like juice. I was like, why would I even buy this for you? Number two, my cabinet is full of things like this in my my kitchen cabinet.
Oh yeah.
So it was just really interesting, because as I started listing all these things, but I think I was doing them in such a way, like as a teacher, more than a parent. And there were all these other parents in line behind us, and I could see that people were watching us and listening. But I thought it was really important for him to understand. It wasn't that I think it was $13 at the time. And yes, definitely it was overpriced, but it was just more like, it's not that I don't want to spend $13. It's just that we really don't need this.
Yeah, you don't need it.
I choose not to spend my money on it.
You choose not to. I try to break down the sort of pyramid of needs, wants, wishes, and try to share that with our kids, and try to share that with people, because it's not just children that need this education. There are adults that need this education.
Oh yes.
So when I talk about making financial decisions, I ask people, is it a need, a want, or a wish? And try that exercise first. I said, do you really need it? Okay. And the child can kind of understand, sort of look at that and understand. And a lot of times folks are asking, Mac, what's really the age to start having these conversations with kids? And in doing my research for writing this book, I think it was an Oxford study that shows that a child's connectivity with money starts by age 7. So by age 7, a child can understand the concepts of money and what money does and how it works. They understand the concept of giving. They also understand, to some extent, the concept of investing. When I do the presentation of the book at schools, I talk about investing. They're okay, how is that different from saving? And I say, okay, that $100 bill that I gave you, if you put it in the bank, guess what? A year from now, it's still $100. However, if you invest that $100 and buy a stock of some kind, it could be 200 next year, or it could be 50. And then they say, okay, that kind of makes sense. And I say, well, what would you invest in? I said, well, think about your favorite shoes, or your favorite toys, or your favorite candy. Those companies, you can actually own a piece of that company. That's what investing is. And they say, oh, okay. So you can actually own Nike, you can own Under Armour, you can own,
Right.
whatever thing is. And then the little wheels start turning. And then another interesting thing too about investing is the cultural aspect of what investing is, because I've had children say, well, my mom and dad buy gold as an investment, and then I had another child say, well, my mom and dad buy buildings, they buy real estate as a form of investing. So I think our society takes young kids for granted a lot. And I think in writing this book and just showing children or showing people that you have options when it comes to your money. You don't just have to spend it all. You got to put in one of those 4 buckets, but at least know that those buckets are there. And I think the earlier we can do that for our kids, the better.
Right, right. And you know what? My company, we teach workshops, and we teach workshops to children as young as in junior kindergarten. And we teach age appropriate concepts. I wouldn't be teaching them investing, but I have taught kids that are 5 years old, I've taught them the difference between needs and the wants. And they're able to understand at that age the difference between needs and wants, for sure. And it's kind of sad because sometimes I run into adults that don't understand the difference between needs and wants, but these kids are able to understand that. What would you say, like, how do you explain to your child, like, what is the difference between a want and a wish?
So when I talk about wants and wishes, like you can want uh, a pair of jeans, right? Like a really fashionable pair of jeans, right? Yeah, you want that. But a kid they'd wish to go on a really cool trip. Oh, Papa, I wish we could go here. I wish we could do this. I wish we could do that. I wish we could have. So I view wishes as things that are goals, these sort of lofty goals of things that you could probably, that we may not be able to get now, but if that's something that you really aspire to want to have, like a really cool bike, a really cool bike is not a need. You can say you want a bike, but the BMX or whatever that fancy schmancy brand is out right now, that's a wish. And if that's something that you want to do, we can set up a program or set something up, a mechanism. And the cool thing, there's so much technology out there now too, that allows parents and kids to really plan out these financial goals and do things. So that's my take on needs versus wants versus wishes.
So basically, like, I'm just trying to understand to make sure I understand it correctly. So like a want would be something that you could technically afford right now, but it's not a need. But a wish is something that you actually sort of have to save up for and have a plan.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, when you say there are all these different tools, do you want to maybe tell people would you mind mentioning a tool or something that people could use that
Sure.
that's been benefiting you
Sure.
before?
Yeah, so so for adults, there's Acorns, there's Mint, there's Betterment. There's a lot of really neat tools in the fintech world, and part of our company, Finlit Tech, is building a bridge between financial literacy and financial technology. And we believe that the For Money Bears book and the app that we're developing actually could serve as an on-ramp for children for their financial literacy education, to start there and then move on and progress to middle school, high school, college, so on and so forth. So there's tons of tech out there that will help you bank, that will help you invest, that will help you lend money, that'll do all kinds of stuff with your money. But there's very few tech out there, and you can attest to this too, right? That actually teaches you what to do with your money.
Right.
Very few. So one of the platforms that we actually use ourselves personally, we got it for both of our children, is a company called Greenlight. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yes, I have.
So
I haven't used it because they're not, unfortunately, I'm jealous actually of Americans, because you seem to have amazing apps for allowance, like Greenlight and Busy Kid, and those are not available in Canada. So
Oh,
actually,
okay.
do you mind telling us about Greenlight? Because I did some research and I actually shared some information with my followers, but it's really good to get, sort of firsthand experience,
Yeah.
objective firsthand experience.
Sure. So I like the platform for a couple of reasons. One, it is allowing a sort of digital app interface to connect with an actual physical card. Interestingly enough, I have a call with Johnson Cook, the president of Greenlight, next week to talk about some projects that we're working on and hopefully do some collaboration in the future. So the neat thing with Greenlight is you can put your child's picture on the card, which I think is just really, really neat. Every time a child can get their first debit card and have the picture on it, thumbs up, super, super cool. We gave it to our kids as a Christmas present, I believe 2 years ago. And so we're early adopters, relatively early adopters. And they have an app that allows them to, follow what their expenses are. We can give them allowances through the app. You can put goals. You can do a lot of different interactive things through that. But it's sort of a child's first foray into having a digital banking experience. And for us as parents, we put aside money in the parent's wallet, and depending on what they do, if they do something above and beyond, we can give them a little bit more, give them there. And then when the child goes to the store, the fact that they have their own card and they can pop their own card and swipe their own card is really, really neat. So Greenlight's really good. And there's another neat app that's coming out called Kitty Credit.
Kitty Credit, okay.
Kitty Credit, and that's from a gentleman that's based out of Miami. Evan Leapart is his name. So there's tons of really neat tools that are coming out. The Kitty Credit app is to teach children about credit and how credit works and the importance of taking care of that from an early stage in life. So lots of tech, and we're building our app as well, our For Money Beers app. We had a contest that was recently sponsored by eMoney. They provided the grand prize for the winning app for the contest, and so we're working on developing that now, and just try to bring more tools to teachers, to parents, and to organizations that are looking to help talk about financial literacy.
Right, and so the For Money Bears app, is it going to be the app for children to teach kids financial literacy, like through allowance, or will it have other components to it?
Yeah. So the initial app that we're looking to do is really just to take elements from the book to teach some of these basic functions of money. But we are talking to other partners out there in the fintech industry about either collaborations or partnerships to be able to say, hey, look, there's 4 things you do with money, and spending, and saving, investing, and giving, and they're large organizations that are interested in helping audiences and helping parents with young kids. So initially, It's just going to be to teach, and we're really going after the teacher and schools, that audience, as well as the direct to consumer. So iOS app, things along those lines. So we've got a lot of things cooking. The book is really fun. I mean, thank you again for buying it. Everyone who sees the book, they say the book is awesome, and then the first question they ask is there an app?
Yeah, I think, what, our children, I believe, because you have a 13-year-old as well. I mean, our children were born in this age of technology. My son, I mean, we already had cell phones when he was born. We had, iPads, I think, came a little bit later. But I think these children don't know what it's like to live in the world without technology, without internet, without cell phones. So I think I'm a mom that watches the use of technology for my kids. Like, I try to minimize the amount of time they spend on the computers and stuff like that. But at the same time, I do realize and accept that my children learn best through technology. So apps like this are very useful, and they're much needed, because that's really how our children are going to learn.
We try to make it fun too. We try to gamify it, and not just
Yeah.
Try like medicine. You try to put a little honey in the medicine, so you try to make it gamified, try to make it fun, try to make it interactive. So we're having those facets in in the app as well.
Right. And I think like that's important, I think anything you can gamify and, make it fun for them, that's sort of what works for them. But I mean, I really I'm happy you told me about Kitty Credit. I didn't know about it. Actually, I haven't heard of another app that was teaching kids about debt and credit. So that's really interesting. I will definitely be looking into that. I know in Canada, we have a company that just launched their app. It's called Treasure, and it's for parents to teach kids about money through allowance. And they have like a savings portion of the app where the kids can save. And then there's a part of the app where the kids can donate to different charities, which is really neat because they're connected to different charities. But the piece that they're missing is the investing. I know that Busy Kid, they have the investing part, which kids or the parents can actually use, or they approve the kids' investment choices, and the kids can invest into portional shares. I don't know, is Greenlight, and do they do anything like that as well, or no?
I don't believe they have jumped into the investment side. The investment side is a lot of rules, a lot of regulations. You have a child can't really own the account. You have to
Right.
have some sort of UGMA account wherein the parent owns the account for the benefit of the child. Interestingly enough, another company, Acorns, they have a platform that they are developing called Learn and Earn, and we're in talks with them as well to provide some content and to provide some basic information and some branding with the 4 Money Bears. So they're working with Junior Achievement. We're working. So there's a lot of collaborative work being done out there. It's still such a very, very open space of financial literacy at the elementary school level. There's, a lot of folks are focusing on high school and college, but there really aren't a lot of eyes on the elementary school scene, but it's starting to open up. And I think the 4 Money Bears book has gotten such popularity and has gotten such attention because there really isn't a lot of stuff out there. So when folks are looking for a really fun and entertaining way to talk to their kids about money or teach kids about money, you go on Amazon, we've got a bunch of 5-star ratings, and folks like yourself who are parents and purchase it are sharing and spreading the word. So yeah, it'll get there eventually.
Right.
And so we're just hoping to be a part of that movement.
Yeah, and we actually, I ran a contest on our Facebook. We have a Facebook group. It's a private group. It's basically a group of similar-minded parents and caregivers that care about teaching kids financial literacy. So we share different ideas. And we actually I did a contest, and I also gave away one of your books. And I really, I think it's so important to teach the younger children because by the time they, get to high school, they've already formed certain habits. And I'm not saying it's too late. I don't think it's ever too late. We have adults that change their spending or saving habits when they're in their 50s or 60s. But I think it's definitely easier if we can teach our children sooner. So that's why, doing that while they're in elementary school is definitely beneficial.
I couldn't agree with you anymore. So in the United States, there are 21 states that require financial literacy by high school. Okay. So if studies show that a child's connectivity with money starts by age 7, right? And a graduating high school senior is 17, 18. So if you happen to be in one of those 21 states, you've got 10 years of either bad financial habits, right? Or whatever that's going before you get anything from that state. If you're lucky to live in one of those, if you're not in one of those 21 states, Maya, you're not going to get any help really when it comes to managing. So you're either getting bad information, misinformation, or no information about how to manage your money. And all we are, I like to share this with folks, all we are at the end of our days, Maya, is a collection of stories. Literally, that's all we are. We go through life and we hear and we share stories. Our kids will be lucky because they have parents in the house that talk to them about money. They
Right.
hear stories. They know what a checking account is. They understand what credit is. They know what an IRA is. They know what retirement. They're surrounded by these terms and conversations, but a vast majority of children will not ever get those stories at that early
Right.
age. And so
Right.
that's why we're so passionate about this For Money Bears book is we can still grab their attention at an age where they love stories, and the story can be so impactful. I would love for 20 years from now, some young adult to be like, hey, someone, hey, how'd you learn about money? And they said, my mom and
For
dad
money
bought this
bears.
book called The For Money Bears, and it taught me that I didn't have to blow all my money when I go to the store, and that there
Right.
are other things I can do. And you read it, but just for the viewers that are out there, I put little worksheets in the back of the book that talk about spending and saving, and I also put a budget in the back of the book too, so you can sit down with your child and you can budget out for the full year, how much you want to spend, save, invest, or give. That's along with the story about, spender bear and saver bear and all that fun stuff. So, try to build the fun tools and
Right. And I think
impact some
tools
people.
like that are very important and very helpful because there are a lot of parents out there that they never learned about money from their parents. They never learned about money from school. So I find that a lot of parents come to me and they say, you know what, I just don't know how to teach my kids about money. And a lot of times I tell them, listen, you know more than your child does. So you don't need to teach them cryptocurrency or investing. You can teach
Or hedge funds.
basics. Right, exactly. You can teach basics. We all know that saving is important. And I said, what's the best way to save? Well, you know what? Teach them to pay themselves first. As soon as they get some money, whether it's from allowance or a gift or whatever, save all of it or a portion of it or whatever works for your family. And then you can teach them to spend smartly, coupon or look for good deals, show them how you do it. And then, it's like, get the resources like your book. Especially for younger children that love stories. This is, it's a great way to introduce them to proper money management. And then I always tell them, like, I have some parents that tell me, well, I don't know how to invest. And I interviewed JJ from, I think you also had an interview with him.
Oh, JJ Weinberg, yeah, awesome guy.
Right. And I loved his book. Same thing. I bought his book. I'm a chartered professional accountant, so I have obviously a lot of knowledge on these topics, but I always find I can learn something new from somebody else. So I love buying new books. I'm a bookworm, and I always I try to read them to my children or discuss them with my children. And JJ's book is really great for beginner investors. And when I spoke with him, he said, it's not a book for children. It's a book for parents who want to learn how to invest so they can help their children. So I feel like there are a lot of resources out there. I think parents just need to make the effort to try to look for these resources to help their children.
I think you're spot on. JJ is doing some great things with his book. Again, the stories. One of the best compliments I think I've ever gotten on our book is from a parent that said, Mac, I know you wrote this book for kids, but I have learned so much reading your book as a parent, as an adult, because they never got it. Right. And we intentionally didn't want to make it too kiddie. We wanted to put, concepts and things in there that made it digestible and understandable. But I think you're right. More folks have to want to go out there and teach their kids. And it's one of those chicken or egg things, if you never really got it and it was never really a priority in your life to deal with money or manage money, how can you make it a priority in your child's life?
Exactly.
But I think we're sort of turning the corner, and I think a lot of folks now are because of technology, because of the fact that we can get access to so much more information. I mean, you can go into Google and say, how do I teach my kids about money? And a litany of things will pop up. And hopefully, your resources and my resources and all the other resources that JJ and stuff has out there can impact some futures, can impact some lives.
Right. Where do you see things going? I mean, considering that, everything is, I know in Canada, I've actually just recently posted a research paper by Canadian Payments Organization. They actually track the number of electronic payments, and obviously with COVID, there's less cash. Bitcoin is skyrocketing. Where do you see financial literacy going? Do you think that cash will be completely eliminated? Do you think we'll be using Bitcoin? What's your sort of prediction as a, certified financial planner?
So we're technology is one of those things like the baby boomer generation, and how there's 10,000 people turning 65 a day for the next 20 years, and this tsunami of people and resources that are coming down and changing our economy. Technology is doing the same thing. It's changing how we interact with each other. It's changing how we interact with money. Bitcoin is in its infancy stages, even though it's been around for a couple of decades now, compared to other ways that we sort of barter and do things. So I think technology is going to have a significant impact in how we deal with money. Ask folks nowadays how much cash they have. People don't walk around with hundreds of dollars anymore. Everything's a piece of plastic in there.
Right.
Or a phone. I mean, you can pay for things by tapping your phone on things now. So I think we have to be able to keep up and be aware as to how technology is affecting us and our children and how they learn. So yeah, it's not going anywhere. That's why we're working to develop a digital platform, because
Right.
we know books are great, but children are learning about money differently, and people are doing things with money differently. So I wish I could pull up my
crystal ball. Come
and
on,
tell
you
you
have one. It's
specifically
somewhere there.
what's going to happen, and
Yeah.
I'd be a gajillionaire because it happened to be working today. But
Right.
I think overall technology will have an impact, and so that's what our company FinLit Tech is about. Again, building the bridge between financial literacy and financial technology, utilizing all these great resources to help people get a better understanding of their money.
Right. And that's one thing that I tell parents all the time. I have these discussions because sometimes when I teach my workshops, people will ask me afterwards, they'll say, you know what, I really, especially like I've got two different workshops. One of them is for parents of younger children, and then I have one for parents of older children, like teens and tweens. And I tell them it's really important to start teaching kids how to use electronic form of payments, which is sort of what you're doing with your children with Greenlight. And they come back to me and say, you know what, I really don't think, I think it's too early. I think my child is too young. And I say, that's fine, but you have to realize that we're not going backwards. I really don't, I personally, I mean, this is going on YouTube, so I could be completely wrong, but I really don't think that we will be going backwards, that we will be using cash payments. I think there will be less and less cash. So I feel that as parents, we need to be responsible and teach our children how to operate in this world
digital economy.
Right. And so whether we like it or not, and I mean, if we think our kids are too young, that's fine. But at some point we have to figure out, okay, when is that age that my child whatever age my child needs to be, what is that age, so that I will start teaching my child how to use this digital currency or their debit card or whatever it is. So anyway, so do you want to tell us maybe what else you're doing with your children, like how you are teaching them? Do you have any
I call them MacNuggets. I call them little nuggets of information that I share with people, the little words of wisdom. One of the message I like to share with people, period, no matter how old is, you can't eat tomorrow what you didn't plant yesterday, right? So the idea of saving is very important, because you can't have a few hundred or a few $1,000s saved in your account if you didn't start saving
right.
years and years and years ago. The other one I like to share is the rich stay rich by acting poor, and the poor stay poor by acting rich. You gotta don't ever assume just because someone has a big old fancy car or a big old fancy house that they're necessarily rich. You'd be surprised that that person that has a very modest home and drives a very modest car has a ton of money hanging around somewhere, because they never spend everything. They always spend below their means and did things that way. So right. I try to share those messages with my kids is planning is important. Put things in place. Look, financial planning in my mind, and a lot of these MacNuggets are from my first book, Motivate Your Money. But I tell people that all planning is financial planning is simply bringing the future into the present to do something about it today.
That's very
really
interesting. Do you mind repeating that again for everybody to
Sure.
hear?
Financial planning is simply bringing the future into the present to do something about it today. That's all we're doing as planners, you know, is helping. And so with the Four Money Bears book is okay, you know what? At some point in time, this child is going to have to know what to do with their money, right? They're going to know that there's their saving, there's investing, and there's giving. There's all these different things they're going to have to do. Why not introduce them to these concepts now? Why not do it today while they're young, and they can understand it, they can digest it, so that it's not foreign to them when they're in their 20s and they're, you know, knee deep in debt from college and didn't really take advantage of putting money into like utilizing these tools to buy fractional shares, to do these things, or saving, having a savings habit of realizing that every time when they get that check, that has to go out the door. So that's what we're really about, is planning and sharing these really, really cool, fun stories.
Right. How did you get into financial literacy? Were you always good with your money? Did your parents teach you, or did you just like learn as you went along?
A little bit of both. So I'm fortunate. My dad got his MBA at NYU. And so my dad was a bank executive for years in New York. And so, you know, he imparted all these words of wisdom and what to do and why to do it. It doesn't mean that you know, as a young person, you still don't go out and make mistakes and do dumb things and overspend and try to live this lifestyle that you probably don't need to be living. But you know, I had Bernard Gardner hanging out on my shoulder throughout my life, to be able to kind of look and be like, dude, really? Come on now. I taught you better than that. So I am fortunate to have a father that was there to impart words of wisdom and share guidance. And to answer your question, I got into the financial literacy space actually when I became an advisor, because I think as a certified financial planner, that's pretty much what we do. We're financial therapists. We sit down with people and they tell us their financial stories, and they open their financial lives to us, and they say, these are my goals, this is what I want to accomplish, what do I need to do? And that's when I published my first book, was to really take a lot of this complicated stuff and make it easy for folks to understand, because I mean, as an accountant, you know, this is a very complex space. And a lot of people don't have the time to, that's why they reach out to folks like us. So that's why I'm so passionate about financial literacy, is because I enjoy teaching and I enjoy
So you're an educator, you're a therapist, full-time dad, and all these other things.
Trying.
Yeah. No, and you know what, I hear you. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, I think all of us, as you said, like, we've gone through life, and yes, I've got my designation, but I've also made some mistakes. And I think it's also important to sometimes share those mistakes with our children so they can learn from us, from those mistakes. And I think, as you said, like, stories, children really learn through stories. And if you genuinely share what happened, and like good and the bad, right? Like, we've done some really good things, my husband and I, and, you know, those things have paid dividends, but there were also some not so smart financial decisions that, you know, I hope to share with my kids one day. I haven't shared all of them. There are quite a few. But yeah, but you know what? It's really interesting too, like what you're saying about, you know, what you said. What was the quote or MacNugget that you called it? Rich people stay rich.
Oh, the rich stay rich by acting poor. The poor stay poor by acting rich.
Right. And I just wanted to share this with you because my husband has waterproofing and drains business, and a lot of times they deal with the backup, sewage backup in the basement. It's not really nice stuff to deal with, but here in Toronto, we have this really, really nice area. And I remember he said he went out there one time, and this beautiful mansion had two absolutely, I think, really expensive cars in front. And he went in, and I mean, they had sewage in their basement. It was really bad. So they had to clean it all up, and they had to do the work or to clean the drains and whatever. And so he ended up quoting them, and they knew they had to do the work. They had no other choice. But their credit cards kept on declining. And then they asked if they could apply for financing. And when they applied, they got declined.
Yep.
And not you, but like anybody walking by that
Oh,
house, seeing two
oh,
fancy
they're
cars on the
rich. They
driveway,
got
right?
all this money.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have
Yeah.
sewage in their basement. They can't clean it up. So those are the stories. Sometimes I say that to the kids when I teach in schools. And the kids, I think kids understand that. But I think it's just one of those things that we have to keep repeating. So
Keep reinforcing the story and keep reinforcing the message for sure.
right. Just quickly before we end, I want to ask about one other thing. So on your website, I noticed a section named FinTech Bullpen. Do you mind telling us about that? What is that?
Yeah, so we had this amazing idea last year. Everyone kept coming to us and saying, Mac, we love the book, we love the book. Is there an app?
Oh,
And
so that's
so,
what that was about.
yeah, so that was a crowd sourcing contest where we sent the contest the contest was set up by an organization here in Tampa called Synapse. And there are these things called Synapse challenges. So companies they have a challenge and something that they want the community to help solve, they'll do that challenge. So we started it at the University of South Florida because I serve on the board of their personal financial planning degree program. And the idea was to get a personal financial planning student to partner with a computer programming student to help develop this app. And it went from Florida to all of the personal financial planning degree programs throughout the United States, Georgia, Texas, Kansas. And then we got entries from Canada, Italy, England. So we got over 40 entries to this contest. And the winner was chosen in October of this year at the eMoney conference. So that's what that FinTech Bullpen is a contest that my company started to really just bring that awareness that we need more financial literacy tools in that FinTech space.
Wow, that's amazing. And the winner won a cash prize, correct?
So the cash prize was $3,000, and the winner was a company based out of Miami called Zennial Digital. And there were two other finalists as well. So we asked the top three to send their pitch video at the eMoney conference. Yeah, so it worked out pretty well. So now we're working with these various companies to vet the development of the app right now.
Oh, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job at bringing the financial literacy, making it more accessible to families, and just helping people understand money. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. You're doing a job yourself, and by having these types of conversations with venues, I think helps a lot. So thanks again for having me.
Yeah, definitely. And do you want to tell us, where can people find you, where they can find your book for children and for adults?
Sure. So like everything, you can go on Amazon and you can find the Four Money Bears book there. You can also find my first book, Motivate Your Money, on Amazon as well. You can also go to our website, www.thefourmoneybears.com, and you can actually print off bear bucks. So some parents ask, should I give my kids cash or not? So we created bear bucks that you can go to the website and you can pay your kids in pretend money, and as well as a budget. The budget is on there as well. You can print that budget off and you can also buy the book. For folks out there who may be working for non-for-profits or financial advisory groups, we have something called the Money Mentor program that allows folks to buy the book in bulk. So you can buy them in 10 packs at a 40% discount versus buying them on Amazon. So if you're looking to buy them in larger orders to either give away or to share with folks in either your organization, your community, we've had some success, quite a bit actually, of financial advisors purchasing the book and giving the book to their clients with young kids as a sort of differentiator or something to help solidify the relationship there. So, we have been on a really, really cool journey, and it's been amazing to interact with folks like yourselves and different organizations and companies. The journey continues.
Definitely. And I really, I wish you success to you and your company. And I hope that, we can connect again sometime in the future. And again, thank you so much. And good luck with everything.
Thanks again for having me, Maya. All the best.
Okay, you too. Bye. Sorry.